Instead of having the party meet up at some nondescript tavern, make the tavern interesting and memorable. So what kind of tavern are you having the characters meet up in? How seedy is it? Is it on the better side of town where it's all clean and there would never be a hint of scandal? Or is it on the darker side of town where there's a bit more undercurrent of crime and that? Does the tavern provide more than food, drink, and a place to sleep? Or are there other recreational substances? Is there company for the evening? Thinking about that, there's the fun. I'll put the links in the description below. There's for those of you who've seen the movie Conan, where they come into the town and the peddler goes, "Wait, Black Lotus, Stygian, the best." So as your party comes in, is there other things? Is there Black Lotus for them to partake in if they're interested? Because that's a little bit nefarious or that. Or if you've ever played Oblivion, which is the prequel to Skyrim, and there's the wonderful scene where you were talking to a merchant, like, would you happen to know the punishment for necrophilia or the fine for necrophilia? And the question you have to ask, was this a first offense? And they go, well, let's say no. So does the companions for the evening include undead? I mean, after all, we're in a world where undead are not unknown, so there's that. So you could have those type of things which could make things memorable. But the effect I was looking at is called the Proustian Effect. And it's what happens in your brain when a smell unleashes a flood of memories, taking you back to a particular time and place. So the idea is, let's use the sense of smell, taste, and texture to make the place memorable. So, and I remember one of the things that really made it, the book The Dwarves by Markus Heitz memorable is his description of the food. And if anybody has watched Bizarre Foods on the Travel Channel and you see all the unusual dishes, we're in a fantasy world and we have a wide variety of opportunities, more than we would normally have in our current world. And there are some strange foods in our current world. It's just the simple one. Pickled giant ant eggs. Okay, so you go out there's a giant ant nest somewhere, and the party or someone goes in and instead of killing them, you harvest a bunch of ant eggs, and obviously you come back and maybe eat them fresh in a variety of ways, but you also figure out some way to preserve them so you can have pickled them. That brings me to one of the fun one. It's 1,000-year-old aboleth egg. And what happens is that someone manages to get this, and I love this. This is a variation. I can't remember where I found this, but this is a description of what are called 1,000-year-old eggs, or 100-year-old eggs in that, but 1,000-year aboleth eggs. There are many ways of creating these delicious treats. This is one of the simpler ways. First off, is salt is dissolved in a small amount of water in a large bowl. Then pine ash and lime are slowly added and stirred until a thick, muddy consistency is achieved. A layer of this mixture is then applied to the clean aboleth eggs, which are then rolled in a tray of rice husks to give them a non-sticky protective coating. Afterward, these are gently placed in a big earthenware jar, which is covered loosely and left to stand. The eggs are rearranged every 3 days. Um, and then after 15 days, the jar is finally sealed shut. Now then, for aboleth eggs, he says after 45 days, the eggs are ready, but they get better and better as they age. And so what happens is that they call them 1,000-year-old eggs, but they actually may only be 3 or 4 years old, or maybe 10, 20. Who knows? It's like fine wine. They've been aging for so long, and and he says, and you can imagine what these would smell and taste like. They come out, and the yolk is greenish black, and anyway, so you can come up with this. It says, oh, and the wonderful line goes, it says, for the yummy part, how to eat one of these things. First, you must tenderly remove the disfiguring mud and clean the shell. After then, peeling slowly so the pleasure will last, that one can eat the egg fresh. No cooking is necessary because they've been preserved, and they can be you can eat them with white rice, or cut into pieces and served as a snack with soy sauce and shredded ginger. So that's one option, is that you take the aboleth eggs and you do that. The other one, this brings the wonderful idea of balut. Balut in our world is cooked, fertilized duck eggs before they are ready to hatch. They're normally at 14 to 21 days. They are then cooked. So you've got a partially formed duck inside. You could do that with kobold eggs. Because kobolds are egg layers, so you've raided a kobold nest and you've gathered up all their eggs, and hopefully you figure out how old the eggs are. So now then you boil the eggs, and now you've got this delicacy of kobold balut that you can set down, and someone can peel the egg away and eat the partially formed kobold. Interesting philosophical questions. Is this you're eating a creature that has some sentience, but that's a whole different thing. So you have eating partially boiled kobold boiled partially grown kobold eggs. But as I mentioned about the dwarves, the smelliness of the cheeses, because that was one of the things that really memorable about that book, is his description of the cheese. It really sticks in your mind. It's an excellent story. So he just, we've heard the term smelly foot cheeses, and so there's a whole variety, and you can go and research all the different kinds of cheeses, and are they runny, and what they're made from, and any mammal could produce the cheeses. In my world of Tiglath, one of the things that's there, the party hasn't been too much around the Marzar, but the Marzar have Tronlith, which are mammals, and they use the leather to produce their armor, but they also use the milk to produce the cheeses that are there. But then we run into drinks. Oh, the phrase, almost anything can be fermented to distill alcohol. And in the world of Tiglath, I have goblin ale. And goblin ale is, in many parts of the world, it's very common. But what happens is there is sort of a mystery of where it comes from, because the goblins do provide it, but they're not, but where do they get the ingredients, and what ingredients do they actually use in the preparation of the goblin ale? And I'll put a link to, there was an article called "The Strangest Alcoholic Beverages Ever to Touch a Human Tongue." And some of these are just wonderful. You think about them. You have snake, scorpion, and lizard wine, where they've either put snakes or scorpions or lizard in with the wine as it's fermenting. That's not that tremendously unusual. Maybe you've seen some of the things on the Travel Channel. Well, they've done some of that, but you can put those in there. You can find, what is in your world, what's unusual about your world. Find something, some creature that is common in your world. If you've created creatures, take them and use them, perhaps taking the whole creature and fermenting it. So I'll get more into that in a minute. So then what happens is then there is something called white vodka. And white vodka comes from Vermont, and it's made from cow's milk. Yeah. Okay, so it's a white milk fermented beverage. Related to that is something called kumis, which is fermented mare's milk. And it's the same thing, but so each kind of creature, you can ferment the milk, and there are things that can be alcohol. Now, this is actually a real article. It's called Baby Mouse Wine, where they put baby mice into the wine. Okay, so then you run into, or eel wine, and I think of, Game of Thrones, where they talk about lamprey pie, which actually was at one point in time somewhat of a real dish, but you could take lamprey, and just like in theory, you make the pie out of it. It's very rich, supposedly, and you could put those in there. You could put any other kind of creature. Now then, I love this one. It says, the weirdest drink of all time was invented by the Inuits, and it's called seagull wine. To make this stuff, stuff a dead seagull into a bottle of water and put it in direct sunlight until fermented. Yeah. Yum. It says, if you open up, I love this description. If you open up a Toyota's carburetor and drank the leftover fluid from inside, that would be pretty close. It goes down hard and settles in even worse. But I must say, it sure gets people inebriated in a hurry. And the next day's hangover is nothing short of spectacular. You'll feel as if you've been repeatedly beaten over the head by a giant seagull. And so you take whatever creature you have out there in your world, what's common in one area, what maybe not, grab one, stuff it in a bottle, put water in there, put it out in sunlight until it ferments. And now then, who's going to be the brave creatures to consume this alcoholic beverage? This can be a very remarkable thing to add to your local tavern. Make each tavern or each inn different and unique, and you can do it by what they prepare. If you watch the Food Channel, you see, diners, dive-ins, and drives where they go through, in each place prepares something unique. Steal ideas from shows like this and make your tavern someplace that's memorable, because that's where the descriptions of tastes and sounds will make this memorable. This will add an interesting effect to your role-playing, because now they will remember the tavern. Oh, what was it that had that awful smelly cheese, or that dish that was so remarkable? Think about doing this, to adding to your descriptions, to adding color and texture and taste and smell to your taverns. If you like my video, press the thumbs up button. I'd appreciate that. Or if this interests you, you can always subscribe to my channel. There's a button right above. I look forward to hearing some comments. Tell me what you think about this, and I'll try and reply, and we can see if I'll do some more of these. Thank you.